It's a very hot day today, and it's not the kind of weather for me to be dashing around the city like I normally do, filming stuff, because I don't want to get a suntan just in case it affects my social status here, if you know what I'm saying. So I thought I would find a shady spot and do a Farang Expat A to Z, which means I might even talk about a few shady things as well. Just kidding. In fact, a lot of what we're going to see and talk about in this video was chosen by you. So let's crack on with our A to Z. A is for A to Z, and this is a good way to cover multiple topics in one video through some of your comments, suggestions, ideas and points of view. And I think I struck a pretty good balance in that respect, although some people might still get pissed off, offended or disagree, which is totally normal. But hey, if we all got along in this world, it would be far from perfect. Enjoy. We're going to start on a serious note. A is for alcoholism, and this is a topic not openly discussed amongst expat social circles, and I'm not surprised either, because unless you're in an AA meeting it could be seen as inappropriate, embarrassing. Not everyone wants to admit they might have a problem with booze, and we all know booze can wreck lives, but on the other hand there are people who quite happily drink every night of the week and function almost perfectly in their everyday lives. But on the other hand, there are people who might not realise they had a problem with it until they tried to give up. They could have been getting hammered every night for 3 months, 6 months, a year, and then thought, I'll have a night off it, and realised that they couldn't sleep. They were sweaty, tense, irritable, they were clock watching, the mind's going round and round. And there are medications you can buy at the pharmacy to help deal with that, or you could visit your nearest AA meeting, that might help. Could be a mental issue, a personal problem, a lifestyle problem. Could be something in the past that you're trying to bury in the back of your mind. I did a video on alcoholism a couple of years ago. You might want to check that out. But I'm also doing an update to that video, and that should be out within the next month or so. So we're on to the dreaded F word, which is of course farang or falang or falang. And I've known expats that have been here 20 years or more that still get triggered when they hear Thais using this word, because they think it's a derogatory, disgusting, spiteful, negative word that Thais use to gossip about them behind their back in a bad way. And I'm sure it can be used in this context if you're having an argument or a fight with a Thai. But overall it's just a general term used to describe or talk about white foreigners. There are fantasists out there who feel it's their human right to be addressed in a more politically correct way, and that if this was certain countries in the West, they could send the police round to have them arrested for racism or hurt feelings, but that's not the way it works here in Thailand. Now, one thing I like to do when I buy fruit juice is I point to the guava juice and I say, oh, what juice is that? And they will say, oh, ben nam falang. And then I will say, ah, chan ben falang lao, which means I'm already a falang. And that usually gets a good laugh. So if you want to lighten the mood next time you buy fruit juice, try that. C is for cowboy. And there were quite a few comments asking me to mention this because it does have a strong affinity with expats living here. And one comment in particular was quite scathing of expats who go to Soi Cowboy. It said, why do so many foreign expats who have been here for years and years still think it's socially acceptable to go and party in Soi Cowboy despite being happily married with kids? Is it a case of once a monger, always a monger, or are they just trying to relive their early days, their first trip to Thailand? Surely if they've been here that long, they could find somewhere less dodgy to go and have a drink on a Friday or Saturday night. Fair comment. H is for Hiso, short for high society, and this is a word used to describe rich, powerful, famous families or individuals or people connected to them who have obscene amounts of money. They live in a world pretty much separated from the rest of us and have a lifestyle that me or you could only ever dream of. Now, there are foreigners who mix in these circles, usually very rich and successful, but there are also foreigners who aspire to mix in these circles, and they're hoping to blag themselves a top job or somehow get an easy ride or latch on to a Hiso girlfriend so they can leech from them. And I've met a few guys like this. I knew an English guy who was attempting to climb the social ladder in the same way, and on his way up he alienated a lot of his old friends that he had made when he arrived in Thailand as an English teacher. Anyway, he did get himself a Hiso girlfriend, and she had a really nice apartment in Tong Lo where they lived together. She had a flash car that she allowed him to drive in and show off, but it didn't last very long, about 5 months. And when they broke up, he found himself at a loose end with no money and no friends. He'd given up his job on his way up the social ladder, and eventually he did worm his way back into the lives of a couple of his old friends, borrowed money, disappeared, and the last I ever heard of him was in a news article in the Bangkok Post, because he jumped to his death from a very high floor of an apartment building in the Benjakitti area of Bangkok, and on his way down he hit a wall and his head separated from his body. So it was a pretty gruesome end to a wasted life, because he was only about 29. Anyway, I'm sure there are success stories of foreigners who got to where they wanted to go by climbing the social ladder. Let me know what you think in the comments. K is for keyboard warriors. There's a lot of them about, as you know, and I'm pretty sure at one time or another some of you would have been on the receiving end of one of these bad-tempered, self-appointed experts on all things Thailand. Their sole ambition in life is, of course, to have the last word or insult. Which reminds me, there used to be an online discussion forum years ago. I think it's still going under a different name. And it was famous for this kind of thing. It was always a hive of one-upmanship, toxic comments, negativity. And that was just from the moderators. I remember reading this thread there, and it was about a guy who went to an Italian restaurant in Bangkok, really expensive, great food, fantastic service, and he just so happened to mention that there was an Italian guy working in this restaurant. And within a few posts, the whole thread had degenerated into a debate as to whether this Italian guy had a work permit or not. And then by page 3, you had all these Thai labour law experts chipping in with their 2 cents. And then someone said, my wife's friend works at immigration, she will check. And I wonder if they ever did. I very much doubt it, but it just goes to show, doesn't it? A lot of expats moan about a lot of different things here in Thailand, and it's usually stuff they have no control over. And I don't think it's a bad thing to have a good moan. Sometimes it clears the head or makes you feel better. But then you've got the moaners who moan about the moaners. And these are your Captain Thailand types, and they won't hear a bad word said about Thailand whatsoever. If you had a problem, it's always your fault. And they jump into discussion forums, chat rooms, comment sections, social media, and they say things like, if you don't like it, you know where the airport is. If you don't like it, go back to your own country. And I think deep down, these Captain Thailand types have got a lot of problems in their own personal lives. That's why they project this all when they come online to other people. So it becomes an endless cycle of moaning and complaining that never stops. Yeah, is that the pat.mck club? Yeah, I was just wondering, could you change your name? E is for expat, and apparently this word is racist nowadays, but once upon a time it had an air of prestige attached to it because it meant that you moved abroad for retirement or leisure purposes, and people thought you had a lot of money to be able to do that. Or it meant that you had a job so prestigious and well paid that they'd post you abroad on a generous expat package, and all your friends would say, oh, how lucky you are. But these days, this word seems to have lost a bit of gloss. And a couple of years ago, I did a video about expat life. And there was a comment on this video in capital letters. It said, stop calling yourselves expats. You are all just immigrants and you know it. Stop being racist. So I want to know, when did racism come into this? Because I fail to make any connection whatsoever. Unless I'm behind the times. I do know expat and immigrant are two words with similar meanings. But who the hell are the ones getting offended here? I read an article online and it says, it is racist to call yourself an expat because you would be negatively stereotyping immigrants. Because nowadays, immigrants, particularly those going to first world countries, are looked down upon. So you are smugly disassociating yourself from these immigrants by deliberately using the word expat. That sounds a bit far-fetched to me. Who would go to the trouble of coming up with a conclusion like that? Well, it sounds like the woke fantasists. I find this whole thing utterly ridiculous. Hello? Yeah, this is me. Ah, yeah, I'm only on this number sometimes. It's my office number, yeah. Yeah, I am actually, yeah. The A to Z. Yeah. What? Oh, that's a good one, yeah. Yeah, I'll put that in. Yeah. Listen, I'm only going to be on this number for the next 30 minutes or so, so if you think of any more, just give me a call, alright? Yeah. Brilliant, mate. Okay, see you later. Bye. Some smart people out there. L is for Luk Kreung, and this literally translates into half child. It means you're half Thai and you're half foreign. There are many expats here with Luk Kreung children who are proud of it, and rightly so too. I'm also one of these, but being a Luk Kreung here can have its upsides and its downsides. One of the upsides is you'll always be considered handsome or beautiful because that look has always been a bit trendy. There are lots of models, actors, presenters and singers here who are Luk Kreung because the entertainment industry prefers that so-called stronger facial featured look, and of course the white skin, very important. There are many Luk Kreung models that represent Thailand in various beauty contests, although I personally prefer the natural Thai look. But being a Luk Kreung can also have its downsides. It can also be weaponized against you in arguments. People will make a sly reference to your mother's background or a snide comment, and there's always been a very conservative sector of Thai society that will always make that assumption that any Thai woman who gets with a foreign man is a bar girl or has somehow prostituted herself in one way or another, which is not a very nice way to think, I'm sure you'll agree. Years ago when I was applying for teachers' jobs, my resume said I was British Thai, and it wasn't unusual to get a phone call asking me how Thai I looked. And in a couple of jobs I did, I was taken to one side by the management and told that under no circumstances can I tell the students or the parents of the students that I'm half Thai, because they had an image to keep up that all their teachers were 100% Westerners, and that was very important. C is also for cost of living myth. I saw a video on YouTube that claimed you could live on $600 a month here in Thailand. $600 is roughly 22,000 baht. It also said you could rent a place to live for about 5,000 baht a month. But for that, I'm not sure what kind of place it's going to be, what size and what location. Let's break it down anyway. 22,000 minus 5,000 for rent, another 1,000 for electricity and water would leave you with 16,000 baht. Spread over a month, that's roughly 500 a day. Now for that, you're going to be eating in cheap restaurants, food courts, street food, 7-Eleven convenience meals. You might squeeze a couple of beers a night. If you budgeted wisely, you could get a decent meal in a decent restaurant for every 3 or 4 days, but then you've got to buy everyday stuff as well. Life will not be salubrious or much fun after a while, and you'll probably go back home after 3 or 4 months. I think the minimum amount you need to live on fairly comfortably here would be at least 50,000 baht a month. M is for masks, the wearing of masks, and there were lots of comments about this saying I should mention it because apparently there's a lot of foreigners out there who get triggered when they see people still wearing masks, and they call these mask wearers uneducated, brainwashed, ignorant, conformative, Why do they want to wear a mask in this heat if they don't have to? And it's even worse when they see a foreigner still wearing a mask. It's like, look at him, virtue signalling to all the Thais, as if to say, I'm not a dirty farang, I'm caring, I'm conscientious, I'm one of the good guys. But there is quite a bit of pollution about at the moment, so I would imagine people got their masks back out and put them on because of this. But on the other hand, some people never took their masks off in the first place. Why is that? Is it right to meddle in other people's personal business? Not really. But this is a topic that always stirs up a bit of division and debate and ship fights on foreign social media here. So let me know what you think in the comments. B is for baldness, and I'm pretty sure this suggestion was given to me as a joke, but then I made the obvious connection. A lot of older foreign guys here are actually bald, but then again I didn't want to do this in a piss-taking stereotypical kind of way, because that would just be cheap, wouldn't it? So I got sent a link to a thread on Reddit, which, in case you didn't know, is a treasure trove of all sane discussions about Thailand. And there was a thread going saying the usual derogatory stuff about older guys who choose to live in Thailand, saying that they're bald, they're overweight, they wear beer brand vests, and they can't get women in their own countries. But then a couple of interesting replies came back. One of them said, we may be bald, we may be overweight, but at least we get attention from women here in Thailand, which is questionable if you look at it in a certain way. Anyway, a friend of mine came to live here a couple of years ago. He's from Newcastle, and he's been thinning on top for quite a few years. From the age of 20, his nickname was Baldy, and he was looking into getting a hair transplant, and he inquired with a couple of top clinics and realised there was quite a long waiting list just to get an appointment, because he told me a lot of expats are getting this done, which you wouldn't notice, of course, unless you knew them before they were bald. And yeah, it knocked 10 years off his life. He is once again a handsome man. So I thought that's a good way to make the connection between expats and baldness, because hair transplants seem to be all the rage here. I is, of course, you've guessed it, immigration, the bane of many foreigners' lives living here. The endless paperwork, documents, photocopies, bank statements, passport photos, proof of whatever it is they feel like asking you for. The trips to the immigration office. One of the biggest complaints is 90-day reporting, and there are foreigners that have lived here decades that still have to do this, either in person or online if it works. But there are avenues you can take where it gets done for you. But it's the whole idea, isn't it? Like you're on probation, all the hoops you have to jump through, yet you'll always be seen as a tourist. One comment said, I detest being branded an alien, which is understandable, isn't it? Oh, it's too hot today. I don't know why I came out. All right, what's this? Hello? Yeah? Yeah, I know it's really hot today. I'm stuck on the Rama 8 bridge. I'm kind of like in heatwave no man's land, if you know what I'm saying. I need to find a shady place. What do you mean there's loads of shady places in Nana? So Rob, what's this story you were telling me about the other night?
The guy that was on holiday?
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, I met this guy the other day. I don't know him very well, but he was talking to me and he was telling me this story which he kind of thought was normal, and it's kind of a story we've heard before and people usually learn from it. But anyway, he came here on holiday, and on his first night he was exploring, going to like the nightlife areas, and ended up in this bar. And obviously there was ladies of the night in this bar, and there was this one girl in there. He ends up taking this girl from the bar and spending like the rest of the night with her. You know, they go out drinking, they go out clubbing, she ends up staying with him. The night after, he's like, oh, you know, do you want to spend some time together? And she's like, well, I've got to go work in the bar. He ends up paying for her to stay out of the bar, and she ends up staying with him for like the rest of the holiday. They go to Koh Samui, he's paying for the hotels, all of the food. He bought her gold, he bought her something for her condo, something for her mum, some medication. There was a little list of stuff and I was just like, huh, okay, right. Inevitably, you know, holidays come to an end, had to return home, and it just destroyed him. You know, he'd fallen in love with this girl that treated him like a king. He'd never experienced it before. And yeah, it was just complete desperation on his part to do anything he could to get back.
So you would definitely say he had that feeling of desperation?
Absolutely. You could hear it in his voice. Like, there was nothing else on his mind other than getting back here.
Poor guy. G is for graph, short for graffiti. Some people call it street art, others call it vandalism. And how does this fit into expat life? Well, I've heard expats complaining about it, so that's good enough for me. Anyway, let's have some of my favourite bits of graffiti and street art from the last few years to a piece of music. I thought I would do an extra B for Benjakitti Park because one, I have a few frustrations about this park, and two, this is a park that's pretty much on the doorstep of where a lot of foreign expats live in the Sukhumvit area. And I'm sure you'll agree, it's a nice park. A lot of expats come here to cycle, walk, run, sweat the booze out from the night before, some of them. But I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with this park. You know, on one hand, I like coming here in the evenings, you get lots of peace and quiet, you can walk around and there's nice views. But on the other hand, there are no cats, which I found a bit weird, but there's a dog walking area. So maybe they've got strict immigration rules for allowing cats in. They're only allowed in for 30 days and the cats think, oh, I'm not going to bother with that. Yet they let in all these lizards as long as they like to run around annoying all the locals. So I'm not sure what's going on there. So I decided to make a stand and say that until I hear that there are cats roaming free in Benjakitti Park, I'm not coming back. Look at that, it still works. Amazing. After all these years, being disconnected. So the whole issue of tax on foreign income is sending shivers down the spine of many expats at the moment. All you've got to do is look around on social media and on YouTube and see lots of content and threads discussing this. The enforcement was supposed to come into effect on the 1st of January 2024, but from what I've been reading around online, there's no real clarification about this, and even lawyers aren't too sure. Basically what it means is if you reside in Thailand more than 180 days out of every calendar year, then for tax purposes you're classed as a resident. So surely if you leave the country every 179 days, it's going to be job done, right? You're going to be okay. But not everyone can afford to leave the country every 179 days. For example, if you're living on a British pension and that comes into your bank every month, that amounts to around 460,000 baht per year. And you're going to be liable for 10% tax on that, meaning every month you're going to lose about 3,600 baht, which is a lot if that's all you're living on. But we all know there's going to be loopholes and people avoiding this, and the only people getting busted are going to be the small fish. In the news you're going to see expat pensioners surrounded by cops after being raided, whereas the big fish, avoiding the larger amounts, the millions, are going to remain at large, no doubt. Hi mate, how you doing? Long time no hear. No, I'm not shooting. I've finished. Camera's off. You're gonna what? You're gonna leave London, come and live in Thailand and become an English teacher? You gotta be crazy, man. J is for jobs, getting a job here in Thailand, particularly English teaching. And I've done videos on this subject. I've talked about it, so I'm not going to dwell on it for too long. I get a lot of emails asking me how easy is it to walk into a teaching job here in Thailand. And a lot of guys are under the impression they can just use their white skin and good looks to wing it in the classroom, pick up a salary for doing the bare minimum and live a good life. Then reality sets in when they come here and they go to their first class at the language school, or they arrive at the government school at the beginning of term. Some of them can't even afford to do the TEFL course in the first place, but it still doesn't stop them from coming. Also, you've got to blame the employers, because they're the ones cutting costs and paying the bare minimum in salaries and not really caring about the students' needs. Now, as for a TEFL certificate, they are easy to do, let's be honest. And if you want advice on the best TEFL course provider, I'll leave a link in the description. As for other types of jobs you can get, not English teaching, they are out there. People send me emails again about this saying, oh, what jobs can I do? And the thing is, their email is just a bunch of words. I've got no photo, I've got no CV. So I don't know these people's personalities, qualifications, background, work ethic, reliability. There are jobs out there, but it's a matter of getting yourself in the right places. They won't be offered to you on a plate.